I'm Don.
I'm Michelle.
And this is Morrison Madness.
Welcome.
So our last couple of podcasts, we were talking about working for somebody else versus working for yourself, owning a business, having employees.
And little things that a lot of people don't realize go into when you own a business, the stuff that you have to do that's behind the scenes that every business has, but you don't know unless you have a business.
Correct.
Yeah. Did you lose your voice?
A little bit.
Just a little bit. So, what do you want to talk about specifically in this one?
Well, I think I know some of the things that I have learned over the years are that even if you hire an established person to take care of specific aspects of your business, you should still double check those things.
Yes.
If you're hiring an HR person or an HR company to write up applications for you or job descriptions, you should still double check that stuff and make sure that it actually fits your company, it fits your brand.
Yep.
And then
if somebody's doing the books, you need to double check kind of the books as well. I mean, you don't have to necessarily do a fine-tooth comb, but you need to make sure that certain things are laid out the right way. We had one person do our books for a while, and instead of every time we bought
this was specifically for our Star Entertainment Company.
Right.
Every time we bought new music, she was recording that as a draw. So every CD that we bought...
You have to define what a draw is.
I will.
Oh, okay.
So every CD that we bought, every MP3, every karaoke song that we bought, she put it in as a draw. And a draw is what you, as a business owner, what you pay yourself if you don't pay yourself a salary or an hourly rate. So then we were getting taxed on that. And because she was doing it as a draw and not as an asset, then our company wasn't growing any assets.
Right. And that all of that is actually owned by the company and becomes property of the company and thus an asset for the company. So if we want to sell the company, that CD
or if we need to go to the bank
right.
and borrow money, you've got to be able to show that your company either has huge cash flow, cash in the bank, or assets to back up, what you're borrowing the money for.
Yep, absolutely.
So
again, that's one of those that, we luckily caught that and we were able to fix it. But the way that she had originally set it up, and by the time we saw it, it was a couple months because she was doing a couple months at a time. And we were like, no, that all has to be changed. And if we hadn't seen that and done a whole year and then had to report that for taxes or whatever, we would have been having to pay a ton of taxes on something that we shouldn't pay taxes on.
Correct.
So it's things like that you still have to go back and check and make sure that things are set up properly for your business the way that it needs to be done. And check in with people that, again, talk with a lawyer, business lawyer, things like that. Make sure that stuff is set up properly so you're not getting hit later with a big expense that you're not expecting or something along those lines.
Yeah, and if you have employees, even though you hear nothing but good things about them, like let's say, for instance, we do weekly shows, whether it's a karaoke show or Name That Tune or Music Bingo, and if we hire somebody and have them run one of those weekly shows, we might hear nothing but good things about them. It's still a good idea to go once in a while and check them out and listen to what they do so that you know that they're representing your brand, your name, the way that you want it done.
Right.
So not that they can't have their own style, but you want to make sure that they're not doing something that you feel like would be against your brand.
Right. Yep, absolutely. So those are components that, again, as you're growing your business, as you're doing stuff with your business.
And I apologize for all the growling in the background.
The puppies are awake and they are playing tremendously right now. I'm not sure how much you can actually hear.
In the kitchen, and we're filming this, recording this in the dining room.
They're not quite under our feet, but right next to us. Hey guys, all done. So they're not going to listen either. Anyway, so there's a lot of components that go into having a business that people don't realize, because what they see you doing for your business is only the front window, if I can kind of use that as an example, right? So if you think about window shopping for shopping in general, whether it's clothing stores or something along those lines, and you have that front window, most people recognize what you do by what's in your front window.
Right.
So if you have a construction company, they recognize you from the work that you've done on construction, and they think, oh, well, you come in, you build this component for this construction, whether it's a retaining wall or whether it's a dog house or something along those lines, and they're thinking that's all you have to do. And so you get to do that 40 hours a week. And that is never the way a business is run. A business has so many other moving parts and pieces behind the scenes that, in all honesty, when you are a sole person like that running a business, all done puppers, I would say probably half of the time from the get-go, you're spending time doing other things. And so you have to keep that in mind again.
Well, it depends on the kind of business that you have.
Well, but I mean, especially in today's age, because not only are you having to do paperwork for the legality aspects, and then you're having to do the bookwork side of things and kind of get all that going. And I'm saying if you're starting out by yourself, doing your own business, and you don't have any capital to start to where you're paying somebody else to do this kind of stuff.
No, but it would be better to give them an example. So like, when people contact us about a wedding and they say they want us for, 8 hours, they want us to do the ceremony and, do this thing, and the ceremony's outside and then the reception's inside, and they don't understand why it's better for them to get 2 pieces of equipment.
Right.
They don't understand that, if we have to tear down the equipment, that's an upcharge and it's not good on the equipment. And then they don't understand why it costs X amount of dollars when we're only there for 8 hours. Well, they don't take into account, the value of your experience of reading a crowd and keeping the crowd dancing and the party going.
Right.
They don't think about, you're meeting with them and going over all of the stuff for the way that they want their day, helping them pick out music.
You're building that playlist beforehand, and then you're still adjusting
any songs that you don't have, you're purchasing all of that stuff.
Right.
You're going there early to set up. You're staying late to tear down. They don't think about all of those things. Like when we do a Name That Tune show, a lot of people think, oh, you're there for 2 hours. It takes you 20 minutes to set up, 20 minutes to tear down, 3 hours max. Well, it took me, 10 hours or 20 hours or 30 hours to build all those playlists so that they're not redundant. So you're not hearing the same thing. Every week it's not, 80s one-hit wonders and 90s country and, girls of rock and hair bands. There's a variety of different types of musics and genres and artists.
Right. And so the process, again, behind the scenes, but I'm thinking more, again, yes, that's an example specifically for our company, but my thought was no matter what company you have, you've got the bookkeeping that usually needs to be done from day one. And so I'm thinking from when you're starting a business, day one, and it doesn't really matter what your business is. If you're going to set it up as a business, you have this behind the scenes kind of thing that needs to happen, all done. And so then you have the bookkeeping, you still have the legality papers. You need to make sure all of those are in line, and that takes quite a bit of time for the first couple months at least. And then anymore, your marketing, your social media. It's not just a matter of putting your name in the phone book kind of thing.
No, right.
You have to do all the social media, and you have to be on several different platforms. You have to get your name out there in order to really get traction. And that takes a ton of time. And I honestly feel like starting a business, if you're thinking, I'm going to put 40 hours a week into starting this business, and whatever that business is, if it's a trade or you're making something or what have you, you're not going to spend 40 hours doing that trade or making those components. You're going to spend more along the lines of 20 to 30 hours doing that, because 10 to 20 hours you're going to spend on all the behind the scenes stuff that makes the business run.
Yeah. If you got started in construction, you've got to write up estimates for people on a job. You've got to go and get the materials. There's a ton of stuff.
The puppies are moving the curtain behind us. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Sorry.
Nothing to see here. Yeah, there's tons of stuff that has to be done.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think people realize that when they're starting a business, and that's something that I kind of really wanted to highlight as we were talking about these things, because that's stuff that I knew because my parents had a business, and so I knew that we did that stuff anyway. I grew up watching that happen, and they were able to do a lot of that work while they
Have
were...
puppies, they said. It'll be fun. They said, get two so they'll play with each other, they said. Makes them not be lonely, they said. They're
totally wrapped up in the curtain. So I forgot what I was saying now because I got interrupted. I apologize. Sorry. No, that's all right. So growing up, I saw my parents kind of doing a lot of that behind the scenes stuff, and we had a brick and mortar store. And so when it wasn't busy at the brick and mortar store, my parents were able to work on the books or, do inventory or do all those kinds of things that most people don't see you doing when you walk into a brick and mortar store, because when you're dealing with the people at the store, they're more in the sales mode or consulting in that way because of they owned a motorcycle business, and so people would come in and want to know how to fix the bike or what was needed to fix the bike or buy a part or buy a machine itself or what have you. But we did a lot of that work when customers weren't in the store. One of my major jobs anytime a customer was not in the store was I was going around and dusting everything. Nobody thinks about the fact that, when you own a store, you have to clean it. If you own a storefront right from the get-go, the bigger companies, they have cleaning crews that'll come in at night and clean. So then, if the company is closed at night kind of idea. And so then there's another way to go about that. But you have to have income to be able to pay somebody to come in and do that. If you don't have that up front, then you've got to do it yourself, and you've got to plan that time in there.
I am so sorry, folks. We are being held hostage by these two right now.
I'm not sure anybody can even hear the puppies, but we're just going to pick one up. Here, you take one, I'll take the other, because once... Say hi, Mala and Chewy. All right, now they'll be a little quieter. But I think that's one of the big things that when people are always like, "Oh, it'd be great to have my own business." I wish I could work 3 hours a night. And we've had people tell us that with Star Entertainment, because we do name that too. And then they're like, "Oh, it'd be great if my company only had to work 3 hours a night and that was my job." And I'm like, that is not the job.
No.
That is not the job. I've already worked probably 5 to more hours that day already on doing stuff for Star Entertainment, whether it's social media or what have you, until we were able to start hiring people and then preparing for weddings and all of that kind of stuff. We put in a lot of hours outside of those shows, and people don't see it, which it's fine. You don't need to see it. But when you're wanting to start a company, you need to know that those things are going to be happening, because otherwise you're going to hate your company.
Well, and then another thing that people don't think about when you're hiring a company that's been around for 10 years and has the experience that we do. I mean, prior to our 10 years of experience with this company, you had 10 years of experience managing events.
Yes.
I've been DJing since high school.
Yes.
And
I had been a KJ or a karaoke jockey.
You know, if you hire somebody to build your deck and they've got 1 year of construction business, you're not going to pay them the same that you're going to pay somebody that's got 25 years.
Right. And you shouldn't, for usually. I mean, that's the whole thing, because the person that has 1 year is going to take longer, usually, than somebody that has 25 years of experience.
Because they're learning. They don't know the shortcuts. They don't...
Yep, and their quality may or may not be as good. You never know. But in general, it's usually going to take longer. And so when somebody has more experience, especially in a trade kind of thing, they're going to have be able to do the job in less time. So they're going to have you pay them more because, again, they're able to expand their business. They have other people working with them for behind the scenes stuff that, they might be the only one that actually does the construction, but then they have a bookkeeper and they have a lawyer and they have a social media person and all of that kind of stuff. And so when you're paying that person that's doing that construction job, you're not just paying the construction worker, you're paying for the company to survive.
Well, if it is a company, yes.
Excuse me.
My point was that you're paying for experience.
Yes, and you should pay for experience.
Yes, absolutely.
100%, yes.
And we're not saying that a new company can't be great at what they do.
No.
They certainly could be.
Absolutely.
Maybe they got experience somewhere else.
Yeah.
So it's not about how long the company's been in business.
No.
It's the amount of experience that the company has.
Or the individual in the company that's doing the job.
Or multiple individuals in the company. Right.
Yep. Absolutely.
So.
Yeah. So some of the other stuff too that we kind of wanted to cover, I had mentioned a little bit about like social media, but what are some other things that when you first got into owning your own business or something that way that you were surprised that you had to take care of or do or what have you?
So, I mean, when I got started, my first business, there was no such thing as social media. That didn't exist.
Right.
We had an ad in the ad sheet that they gave away free to, people downtown and places around town, and it was a great way to advertise. But you had multiple ways that you had to advertise. The ad sheet was a huge one. We did cross advertising with places in town, so we made up flyers that said, $1 off a small pizza, $2 off a medium pizza, $3 off a large pizza.
At this specific pizza.
Right. These
place. Yeah.
coupons are brought to you by Pedigree for it was Pizza Pit that we were had this relationship with, and then they had coupons. So we would put the pizza coupons in every bag that went out of the store, and they would put our coupons on the top of their pizza box. Right. And that's, setting that stuff up, changing them, having those kind of meetings, setting up your phone book ad. Back in the day, that was a huge thing.
Yep.
Did you just have a line item, or did you have, a 1/8-inch, 1/4-inch, full page?
Right.
And trying to figure all of that stuff and what you're going to have in the ad, and whether you had co-op dollars from dog food companies or whoever else,
Right.
It takes a lot of time. And then just going through the store every week and ordering more inventory because you've sold so much during the week.
Yep.
That was probably a quarter to half my time was spent doing ordering.
Sure.
And I would constantly have to stop doing my ordering to help a customer, but that's what you're there for. You're there to help the customer.
Right.
Yes, you do got to get that stuff ordered, but the customer comes first. If you've got to stay late after the store's closed to do your ordering, then that's what you got to do if your store's that busy.
Yep, absolutely. 100%. And that's, again, a storefront example, but I think like with Star Entertainment, we have a lot of meetings, and not just with potential clients. We have meetings with other companies, as far as if they were thinking about bringing us in, we try and meet with them, we touch base with them. It may just be quick messages back and forth, but talking with them, making sure we're on the same page, making sure that everything's running smoothly. You check in with those people, and that takes time. And then also, I think, what was the other thing that you had mentioned? Oh, the inventory side. So, like, we don't have an inventory that we're going through, but I couldn't tell you how many times we have unpacked our equipment, set it up in our house, tested stuff because we thought something wasn't working quite right or something along those lines. We just did that here last weekend, right? We used our kitchen and set up sets of equipment and tried out different microphones because we know something's being wonky with our microphones, and trying to figure out how to fix that. And again, that's hours that it takes for us to set up and go through that kind of stuff. And that's, again, the side that people don't know or don't see. And you don't necessarily need to know it when you're enjoying Name That Tune as a client. That's not what I'm trying to say. It's for those of you that are watching that are thinking, oh, I really enjoy this as a hobby. I want to make money doing it. Let me set it up as a company. You need to know that these are the things that are going to be happening. Yes. Because when it's a hobby, if something breaks down, you can choose to just be like, okay, I'm not going to worry about that. And maybe next week I will see if I can figure it out. Or, I'll wait a couple months until I save up enough money and get another product or machine or whatever that will help me do that. When it becomes a company, you can't necessarily wait.
Right.
It becomes a thing that has to get done right then.
Yeah, if you're doing construction and your drill breaks, you got to go get a new one, or your saw breaks.
Right.
If you're a DJ and your speaker blows, you got to go get a new speaker. If you're a landscaper and your shovel breaks, you got to go get another shovel.
Yep, absolutely. And so that's one of those that it's different. That's part of the big differences between a hobby and becoming a company, or making a business out of a hobby in that way. So that was something that I kind of wanted to chat about as well. Anything else that you think we should?
No, I think we've pretty much touched on all of the stuff. I mean, you could go on for hours about all the little hiccups that come up.
Oh, sure.
But I think we touched on the major ones. Again, just, do your due diligence, look into stuff ahead of time, make sure you've got all the correct paperwork, accounts opened, and all of that kind of stuff, mainly to protect yourself. Make sure you get, insurance and all of that kind of stuff. The best thing about turning a hobby into a business is that I enjoy what I do.
Absolutely. Yes.
I don't dread going to work.
Right. Right.
So.
Even the other stuff that you don't necessarily plan on doing, like I'm not a big fan of doing social media and stuff that way. I learned a lot by needing to excuse me.
By needing to do the social media ourselves, we learned a lot about marketing and advertising and all of that kind of stuff. The worst thing about social media is that it changes so quickly, it's hard to stay on top of it.
Yes.
And so when your business can't afford it, paying somebody else to do your social media is definitely a good idea.
Yeah.
Because you'll spend way too much time trying to stay on top of the trends of social media.
Right. Right. And you can find things online too, research things that virtual assistants can do for you or that social media managers can do for you. And then to have discussions with those people that are doing it and see how much it's going to cost to have them do certain things. Because again, they may think that that's not an area that they really focus on because it's not something that they feel like they're qualified to do or that they specialize in.
Right.
And so
you might recommend somebody else to you.
Right. You might have to have more than one person doing stuff. So it gets really confusing fairly quickly once you start getting into all of that. But you learn a lot as you're going as well, which I enjoy.
So I think that pretty much wraps up our experience with, having a business, starting a business, running a business.
Kind of the behind the scenes.
If you have any questions, please, shoot them our way.
Yeah.
Facebook or
absolutely. We're happy to chat with people.
Instagram or comment on
Twitter,
YouTube.
Yep.
Wherever. We do our best to try and check all of that stuff and get to the questions as quickly as we can. Please like our thing, share it with other people, especially if you enjoy it, if you think it's worthwhile.
Yeah.
Share it to other people. Maybe they'll get some helpful hints out of it, or maybe they'll just get some enjoyment out of hearing our dogs argue in the background, holding us hostage here.
Right, exactly.
So, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take care.
Take care.